That's good.
And valuations.
No, this is always good. We love these episodes. We gain so much knowledge, and we always put our guests on the platform here.
How's the real estate going for you, right?
Doing well, and to start the year, and for January, I'm just praying that it's not it's like the marathoners, and then they like start off sprinting, not realize that then they have 25 miles left to go.
Yeah, that's what
happens. And then they start dying out by like mile 3.
I know.
So I'm just hoping that it continues, but at the same time, I always have to be asking myself, what are we doing on a daily basis to generate business and generate leads?
Yeah.
And keep ourselves out there, which is why we're doing this. So we just try to just stay tapped in and just keep in front of people as much as possible, and just constantly having that conversation of what you do, man. So it's sales, but
Lead generation always.
it's just trying to, are you doing on a daily basis? And
you're lead generating for sellers, right? You
Well,
are,
yeah,
right? You're looking for sellers, and you do the mortgages, so you're looking
Buyers,
once the
refinance.
buyers come in,
so this is like a very interesting. Actually, that's a great.
I'm lead
question.
generation for sellers. I have enough buyers. I'm looking for buyers, like maybe people that are thinking about leaving the corporate world, but as far as like buyers of existing businesses, if I have a good listing, I sell it. It's like a house, right? You got a good listing, you're going to sell it.
Yeah, I agree. If it's a good house, if it's a good business, it's gonna. There's not much marketing.
No.
Have you seen what's like the most lucrative everyone wants to get into, like laundromats or?
People want to get into laundromats and car washes, and because people see that all over the internet, but it's definitely not all that it's made out to be.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so you always see these influencers talking about it. Like, listen, it's very location driven.
Like real estate.
Labor's hard to find, right? And you really have to own a few laundromats to be able to hire a manager and then work absentee or semi-absentee.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Okay.
I like vending machines. Vending routes are really strong right now. I'm selling a ton.
Vending routes. So basically the truck.
No, it's like AI vending machines. It looks like, you ever go to like a freezer section and there's like a big cooler? So you would open up the cooler, and then there's cameras and sensors. It pre-authorizes your credit card, and then as you take the stuff out,
So like the Amazon.
correct, and then when you close it, that's the final sale. It knows exactly what you took out.
So in order to open it, you have to put your card.
Pre-authorize your card. It's like a gas pump. It's great.
I haven't seen those. Where are those? Like in big.
They're huge over Europe right now, and then we started marketing it about a year ago. Yeah, we're rolling it out, and it's doing great.
So you need a location, obviously.
Location, yes.
How much is one of those?
So we sell it in 10 packs, and 10 machines are $120,000.
Okay, so 12 each.
Yeah, so approximately 12 each, minimum of 10.
Got it.
Just because it doesn't make any sense for somebody to do less than that.
Yeah.
So, but it's great. Yeah, it's up and coming.
You ready, guy? Come on, do not disturb mode. Do not disturb mode. Keep the energy out.
I gotta make sure my phone.
Keep the energy out. All right, let's rock and roll.
Let me make sure my phone's on airplane mode. Give me a second.
Sound is good? All right, how about you? You ready to roll, Austin? All right, let it go, let it go. Release it.
You got to be okay. This is like your 100th episode. This is my first one. If anyone, I should be sweating.
I think that phone call
I need a
got
bottle
him.
of water.
It's a wire, and it's whatever. It's whatever. All right. Okay.
So do you edit this, or is it like full?
It's a full clip, and then we do small
And then you like
edits.
selectively
Yeah.
stutter or whatever.
Oh, if you started, yeah, you'll be fine. You know how to start it. You know how to start it. You know how to start it.
There's none
If you need to, yes, we can edit.
it is very, very organic. It'll be completely fine. All right, which one's camera's mine? That one. That one, right? All right.
Yeah, across.
Straight here, right? Correct. Obviously. Yeah. All right. I'm good with you, Marvin.
Am I straight ahead here?
Yep.
Yeah, you're straight ahead.
Okay.
But only if you like want to talk to the audience, but you're like.
So it's more of an
Well, usually,
interactive
like,
between
shooting
us?
shit, yeah,
Got
shooting
it.
shit.
Okay.
If you're like, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to like, then at that
Got
point
it.
we can talk
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so intro on the center camera there. Center.
Oh, the
Right
white
there.
is a white shot. Okay.
Yeah, wide shot.
Okay.
All right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, only for the intro.
Only for the intro and the middle camera.
Yeah.
I got you.
All right. 3, 2.
What's going on, everybody? On another episode to kick off the 2026 new year of the Real Estate Blueprint Podcast. I am your humble host, Austin, aka More Than an Agent, here with my amazing co-host, my Dominicano hermano, John Soto. John does real estate. How is the new year starting off for you so far?
I'm blessed, man. Busy, active, and blessed. I would
That
say.
sounds good. This January has been amazing to start off, and like I was telling our guests here, who we'll get into in a second, I'm hoping that we keep this consistency throughout the rest of the year, keep this momentum going, and then have a prosperous 2026. Today's guest, this one is a very interesting episode because naturally we are talking about real estate investing, talking about being an agent, and buying and selling, landlording, issues with tenants. And in this particular case, we wanted to bring on today's guest to talk about buying and selling businesses. And the reason why we chose to go into this episode is because, as I mentioned before, we're usually used to talking about buying multifamily, which is nothing more than a very, very, very small business that has an amazing exit strategy attached to it on the back end. But some people have found that the cash flow just doesn't hit as sexy as it once did, especially in real estate. Rising prices, inconsistent interest rates, tenant issues, all of the works. So, today's guest has been in the business of buying and selling businesses right? For the past 7 years, and even before we'll get a chance to talk about his journey, he actually got a chance to stop by our brunch and real estate event, in which that was our first encounter of starting to bring to our audience what it's like in the space of buying and selling businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to my unofficial but official mentor, Darren Smith. How are you, boss?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Listen, I remember our first conversation, and we were like, my last name's Smith, your last name is Smith, so we got to have some type of lineage
Yes.
Going throughout history.
The
So,
three S's. I'm Soto. SSS.
Soto,
All right,
Soto,
let's talk
Soto,
about it.
Smith and Smith. Let's jump right into this. So, take us all the way back to the beginning. How'd you get started? Was this something that either right after schooling or right after a particular job you decided to go into? Bring us through that aspect.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my journey started right after college. I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Went into the textile business through a relationship I had with a family member.
Okay.
Started there. The company soon after went bankrupt about a year after that.
Wow.
So I went and worked for somebody else. And then in the time of working for somebody else for about 2 years, I started being approached by a couple people that were interested in investing with me and me opening up my own textile company. And that's kind of how that got started. So about 3 years after college, I opened up my first textile company called Materialize Inc., and that was in New York City, and had a really great run up until about 7 years ago. And then, with the consolidation of the retail industry, the whole retail landscape changed. So wanted to see if I could pivot and find something else that could, substantiate my income. So I started looking around for different businesses to buy. Found a couple things along the way, and met a really great mentor at Murphy Business, and thought that I'd be really good at selling businesses, you know, because I had that small business experience. I had my MBA, which I got about when I was 27 at Pace University, at the Lubin School of Business and Marketing and
New York,
Finance. So
yeah.
took all my knowledge of dealing with people and salesmanship and my education and got into business brokerage about 7 years ago.
Awesome.
It's been a great journey.
Let's talk more about textiles. So for our audience, what exactly is the industry? What does it entail? What did you do exactly when it comes to that?
Yeah, sure.
industry?
So my company, we're a pretty much like a brokerage house, and we represented factories all over the world. Actually, I've been to Korea about 10 times, China 3 times, down to
Nice.
Guatemala about 6 times, Mexico. We even did things in North Carolina, California. That would be domestically, and I would represent all these factories, and then take their products and sell them to retailers like Walmart, Target, Kmart. And then they would order the raw materials, which were the textiles, and then they would tell me where to ship it and how much, and then we would go back and negotiate prices. So I just took a commission based on the amount of the sale, or sometimes I was able to take a markup, really kind of depending on the order itself.
Is that like similar to like wholesaling?
It is. It's
Okay.
wholesale and distribution. So
Gotcha.
that's my specialty, yeah. And a little bit of manufacturing too, because I saw it all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's funny because a lot of agents normally, when they're, for example, like real estate, and we can kind of give a quasi relationship distinction between the two. But usually agents, you know, by the time they become agents, you know, they're helping buyers purchase, they're helping sellers list, and then they start to go into the buying and selling of, like, for investment purposes. And for you, if I heard correctly, that was kind of reverse, where you already had started on the buying business side of it and then became like an agent broker.
Yeah, so you know, basically, there's 2 ways you could do something, right? You could take on all the risk, and obviously there's higher reward, right? Where you could buy a product, put a markup on it, and then resell it, or you could sell a product that maybe you're producing. I could sell it to my client and then take a commission on it, right? It's like almost like real estate or a business. You know, to me, it made more sense to be a commissioned sales agent, because then I would have access to multiple different factories. And then, you know, if I had a product and it wasn't in demand at that particular time, it allowed me to go out and source a product that would be in demand and then be able to sell it to my client. Really no risk to me, other than if I sold it, I would make commission. If I didn't sell it, obviously I wouldn't really make anything. So
Understood.
yeah.
Understood. And what's, as far as in the business brokering end, what's like your niche specialty, and how did you end up like there?
Yeah, so I you know, obviously my background is in wholesale distribution, and I have a lot of experience in manufacturing as well. So that's kind of where I started. So the first couple of deals that I did were in the distribution space, and then I met somebody who needed a valuation on an HVAC company. So I did the valuation for him, and then we sold his family's business. And then from there, I got recommended to one of his other friends in his circle who had an HVAC business.
Nice.
And then I did that one. And then I moved into different industries, just based solely on recommendations. So I would say for me, it's not really a niche, but I'm more industry agnostic.
Okay.
Because I follow a certain process, right? I have a really good confidential process that I follow, and it seems to work with any industry that we sell,
Right.
any business.
So I know you mentioned regarding valuation. Like, what's a quick step-by-step on how to evaluate a company? Is it like the assets they own plus the income, or what's like the step-by-step for you?
So
From a valuation
that's a great question. So in small
know how
business,
to get house.
so in small business,
What did the house next door say?
Yeah.
That's probably what you're gonna get plus.
This
like,
has one more room, so 10,000 less.
no, everyone comes to me
40,000
like,
less.
my business is doing $5 million. It should be worth $5 million. No, that's not how it works, right? So
Bingo.
you can be doing $5 million, and your cash flow could be $200,000, and then I can have another company that's doing $3 million and then have a cash flow of $1 million. So obviously, everything is a multiple of cash flow, right? Really depending on what the business is, or the industry that it's in will determine that multiple, right? So if we're talking about, I'll give you a quick example. If we're talking about a restaurant, anything in the food space, you're looking at a 2 to 2.5 times multiple on the cash flow, right?
That's the recent cash flow.
An average of 3 years. So we take the last 3 years, we average it out, the cash flow, and then we put that multiple on it. When we're talking about HVAC, we're looking at somewhere between a 3 to 4 times multiple on the cash flow. That makes sense. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We were talking before the podcast went on, we were talking about car washes and laundromats. And you're going to be paying a little bit more, obviously, because that's more of the industry that's in demand, right?
Yeah.
So to get back to your original question, how do we arrive at the cash flow, right? Because that's what everybody probably wants to know is, basically we take the net income that the company made at the end of the year. We figure out what the owner's salary was, and then maybe the owner had their kids working in there or other family members that weren't really doing anything, and we put that all into the cash flow bucket.
Okay.
We take any car expenses that they might be running through the business, any personal insurance expenses, any credit card expenses, and that all goes into the cash flow bucket. So that's how we come up with the cash flow number, and then we put the multiple on that cash flow average over 3 years.
Are those the chargebacks? Is that what?
No, it wouldn't be a chargeback, but let's say, you have, a telephone bill and it's $8,000, but, you're writing off that full 8, but only 4 is, for your family. Because a lot of small business owners look to put things through the business. So we have to come up what is a cash flow,
basically
right?
add back what the new owner
Correct.
won't have
We
as an
call
expense.
those add backs.
Oh, add
Correct.
backs. I'm sorry, I said
Correct.
chargebacks. Okay.
Yes, those are add backs.
Got it. So let's talk more about the laundromats, the car washes. A lot of these gurus out here talk about go get yourself a car wash, go get yourself a laundromat. From a business standpoint, is that a lucrative business or is it more like so many people are doing it, is possibly not worth it anymore? What is your thought process?
I might get beat up for this, but I'd probably say it's not as lucrative as one thinks. First of all, you're going to be paying a lot for a car wash or a laundromat, right? Your multiple is going to be really high, right? And people get into the car wash and the laundromat business because they think of it as a absentee or a semi-absentee business, right? No one's really looking to get into a car wash or a laundromat to work at that laundromat or car wash full time. So it's really a part-time or an absentee or a semi-absentee thing that they're looking for. I'll tell you that there is nothing that's considered absentee or semi-absentee. Right. So as much as you think you're going to buy that car wash or laundromat and you're only going to spend 5 to 10 hours a week, you're mistaken, right? Because let's think about the people that are working at the laundromats and the car washes that might call in sick, and also the cash flow on top of that someone's making from a car wash and a laundromat. One car wash or laundromat is not going to give you enough cash flow to allow you to hire a manager. So you're going to get caught in a trap where you got to open up 2, 3, 4 laundromats, or 2, 3, or 4 car washes before you're able to generate enough cash flow where you're going to be able to hire a manager, which would allow you to be an absentee owner or a semi-absentee owner.
That's a very interesting point because you see the same thing in real estate with landlords, right? And we've bought multiple properties over the course of the year, and that's one thing that when it's originally advertised, right? Passive income, build up your landlording business until you don't have to work anymore. The quote unquote American dream in that particular case. And then once you get into it, you're like, okay, it's not passive. Like nothing's ever truly passive unless like it's stock dividends. That's the only thing that I've seen, or like REIT, like cash flow is the only thing that's passive. But at the same time, it's semi-passive, or you're able to not have to work as many hours as 40, 50, 60 hours a week. But it was funny because as you started to build up your portfolio, you're still looking at the cash flow, and you're like, if I were to hire a property manager, they kind of suck up all the cash flow.
They do.
Right? So in this particular case, are there businesses, or would it be naive for somebody to look at a business, for example, they see that the business is bringing in $250,000 a year in net income.
Yep.
And then they can see that with the owner salary, if they are considering bringing on a manager, they're like, I'll pay the manager $100,000 a year, and I'll just take the $150,000. Is it naive to think about that particular goal setting process, or is there stuff that people are missing when hiring that owner operator? Well, I'll just give them 100. I'll just take the 150. Wouldn't they just go after a business that just makes more cash flow so they can fit in an owner operator?
Yeah, so that's a great point. So if you're looking to buy that laundromat and run it semi-absentee, now you're buying it from an owner that is running it on a full-time basis. There's really no add back for the owner's salary, right? Because if you're taking the owner out, now you have to replace the owner with a manager, right?
Right.
So that manager is going to replace the owner and take up most of the salary that you spoke about. So now the cash flow isn't really as what they advertised, right? So I think for any buyer, it's buyer beware and really kind of do your due diligence, right? Don't take a broker's analysis for cash flow at face value and dig into it a little bit deeper, right? Understand what did you add back as a broker and what are the real add backs, right? Because there's some sort of discrepancy. And then you go about figuring out what the right cash flow is going to be.
Okay, because then that changes obviously the whole valuation.
It changes the whole valuation, correct.
And then the seller might not, obviously choose to agree to that because that would be lower, essentially.
Correct.
Have you seen there be certain businesses that you find to be a lot more either owner-operator friendly or a lot more passive for people's goals?
Yeah, so one of the things, and we spoke about this before, is vending machines. I sold a tremendous amount of vending machines last year.
Or like a vending machine route.
It's it's not a route yet. So you're kind of at the forefront at the beginning, and then you're going to develop your own route. So you're not paying for somebody else's work. Now you're going to be the person that's going to go out. You're going to buy, and we sell them in packs of 10, right?
Okay, that's okay.
So
gotcha.
10 vending machines are going to be $120,000, and it's not your typical vending machine that you think of. You press a button and then the coil and the thing comes down. These are sophisticated machines that operate on AI. So think of it like you go to the gas station and you have to pre-authorize your credit card. So you're going to pre-authorize your credit card before you open up the door to this vending machine. And the AI knows what you're taking out and what you're putting back in. And then once you shut the door and it's closed, it's going to know exactly your final tally of what you pulled out. And then it will bill your credit card accordingly. So it's very, very sophisticated. It's all over Europe. It's booming. It's becoming a booming business here. It just started, and it was launched in January of last year.
I've been to hotel resorts.
Yep.
And they have that?
Where in the mini bar, if you take out certain items, there's a little bit there's a sensor underneath.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
Similar.
can tell what it's not AI though. It's just whatever I'm pretty sure they just programmed the technology behind it that, sensor 1, 2, and 3 is a Red Bull, an iced tea, and so and so. So if you pull out 2, then it knows that you pull out the iced tea or whatever the case. But yes, I've seen that in some of the resorts, ironically. And
so these are refrigerated, right? So you could put fresh sandwiches in there, cold beverages. And really kind of the great thing about it is if you think about vending machines, and you're going to the vending machine, you're only getting like one item at a time.
Right.
By opening up the door, you're incentivizing somebody to go in and buy 2, 3 things.
2, 3.
So now you're not selling a $2 item. Your sale is probably going to average, $6 or $7 or $8 every time somebody goes in and opens the door. It's like almost like a mini convenience store. So it's
very
interesting.
Very cool.
So you think that would be like the next lucrative investment in the next 5 years or so?
I do, because thinking about things that are semi-absentee, to run 10 machines, you're probably only going to need about 5 to 10 hours a week. Yeah. You can hire a high school kid to go fill the machines, and you'll know exactly which machines are low on which products because it's all app-based, right? So you'll know machine number 1 is low on Coca-Cola, right? So then you could send, the person that's working for you over to that particular location to stock it with those things, right? So it's not doesn't require a lot of manpower. There's not a lot of overhead. The machines are sophisticated, and they don't require a lot of maintenance. So to me, that's when you're thinking about passive or semi-passive income, that's a better way to go at a less expensive way to get in to owning your own business, right?
Right before we go into whether starting a franchise or buying an existing mom and pop business, I know the reason why a lot of people choose to go after or would choose to go after. Marv, you can hear me, right? I'm sorry, I'm a little bit further. Luckily, everything's raw here, but a lot of people would choose to go after something that's already generating cash flow for the ability for financing.
Correct.
And the ability to go after an SBA loan, which was thrown all around the internet and things like that. Run us through like the SBA loan process. Is it as easy as people make it seem? Do you find that a lot of people are usually in a great space qualifying wise as long as the numbers are right? Run us through that, because obviously on the mortgage end for real estate, the underwriters get into the nitty gritty of the borrower's finances, whereas if I'm not mistaken, SBA is more focused on what the business actually produces.
Yeah, that's a great question, and a lot of it has to do with the cash flow of the business in order if, an SBA lender is going to lend you money. But it also really kind of depends on your assets too and your balance sheet and your personal financial statement, right? A lot of times, depending on the size of the loan, they'll want you to collateralize your real estate to the loan. Sometimes under certain amounts, you don't have to collateralize. But when you're buying an existing business, it's really kind of, does it cash flow, right? Yeah. So if you're, let's say in a 12-month period, your loan, to service that loan is going to be $100,000, and the business only cash flows $200,000. So after you service that loan, that means that you're only going to be able to take out $100,000, right? So there's some sort of limitations. They're not going to lend you $500,000 for you to make $50,000. That's just not going to be what they do. But typically, it's more about the cash flow of the business if they're going to lend an SBA loan. What's great about an SBA loan, if you have a business, say, for $1 million, you only have to put down $100,000. There are ways that a buyer can buy $1 million business with only putting $50,000 down. Yeah. That's if you could convince the seller to hold 5% of that injection or that equity injection into the business purchase. But that often requires the seller to hold a note on standby for 10 years, which is the life of the SBA loan. So a lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of sellers don't want to do that, especially in industries that are, a little bit of a more in demand. But when you get to industries that, are less in demand, it's a little bit easier to convince the seller to hold part of that equity injection, right?
Can they do the whole 100,000?
No, they can't. It has to be 5. They used to be able to, and they changed the rule in June. In June, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, last year.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. And for everybody's listening, basically an injection is the equivalent to seller financing in the real estate space, where the seller will loan the buyer a portion of the proceeds or the equity. In order for the buyer to bring less to the closing table.
Correct.
And then receive, monthly payments on that. But it's interesting, though, because the only key difference that I heard is that they have to hold that note for the life of the SBA loan.
Right, which is 10 years.
So
if it's no real estate
if it's an equity injection. Now, you could do, a lot of times, depending on the industry it is, we do seller notes that have nothing to do with equity injection. It's just a seller note to bridge the gap, because sometimes the SBA, for $1 million business is only willing to lend $800,000. So how do you bridge that gap between the $1 million and $800,000? Well, it's Mr. Seller, hold a $200,000 note. Maybe we'll put it on standby for 2 years and then payable over 5. So at least the buyer has enough cash flow to get the business going before they have to start paying back the other $200,000.
Okay, 5 years in total, 2 on standby.
Yes.
So then
Yeah,
sellers
you
start
could
getting
structure
paid.
it, as a broker, we have flexibility on how we could
Okay.
structure a deal. We
And
work
then they
with
start getting paid on the third year, essentially.
they'll get the cash at closing from
Right.
the SBA, and then the rest they have to wait depending on the terms of the note.
Excellent. And the only reason why I asked is because I was asking how that seller, if they had to hold it for the whole entire note, whereas in real estate, you would able, or most of the times when people are doing seller financing, you're able to refinance out, and then that clears off the old debt plus the debt of the seller. But in this case, it doesn't seem like when buying business that you're having refinance processes, are you?
Yeah, I do believe, because I don't really know what happens kind of later on in the transaction. I'm really only
Right.
involved at the beginning, but I would assume that one could refinance out into a new loan if that's
Into a new SBA loan?
Sure, like
okay.
if you buy a business and it's cash flowing X, and now you take control of that business, and 2 years later
Increase it.
you're doubling that cash flow.
Right.
Why not pay off that loan quicker
okay.
and try to refinance maybe into a better rate, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So for SBA loans, it's 10 years when there's no real estate included. Is it more when there's real estate
Real estate
involved?
includes, I believe it's 25-year amortization.
Okay.
Real estate included.
Yes, real estate
So
included.
correct. Yes. Okay. And then you mentioned on the $1 million business purchase that you only have to bring 10%. That's with the real estate included?
That's
or-
not without. So when we're
That's
talking
without
about
real
$1 million, we'll just talk about the business assets by itself.
Yeah.
It's $1 million. You want to buy $1 million business, then you come to, the business is priced at $1 million. You pay $1 million, and that's the agreed upon purchase price. You come to the table with 10%.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now it's very important that they're going to look at, like, okay, after you put that 10% injection in, how much money do you have left, right? They don't want you to put that $100,000 down and now you only have $15,000 left in the bank. That's kind of a no-go, right?
Of course.
They want 12 months reserves, or what's the
Typically,
normal?
there's a formula that an SBA lender would put on how much liquidity they would like you to have.
Got it.
Yep. Just to make sure that
Post-close.
their money is safe.
Correct.
So it makes
Got it.
sense. Okay.
Yeah. Then you asked me, also, you were asking me about franchising, right?
Yes.
Right.
You can also finance
That was
a
gonna be my
franchise
next question.
with an SBA loan. You can do that,
Interesting.
but there's certain criteria. There's a list that the SBA puts out. It's an approved vendor list of franchises. So not every franchise is on that list.
Right.
Only certain franchises, usually the more mature franchises that have 50 locations or more, will be on that SBA approved list.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you have to get approved by the franchise and approved by the SBA.
Correct. Yeah. And then one other thing on top of that, another really great way of financing a business is through what they call the ROBS IRA rollover program. And what that is, basically, if, say, you're a corporate executive and you're in your 50s and you've been like at, Citigroup for, 20 plus years, and now you have $2 million in your 401k. You could take part of that money or all that money, if that's what you decide to do, and roll it over into a C corp, tax free.
Yep.
Speak to your accountant and your attorney, but they would do that for you, and then you'd be able to purchase that business. You can use the money from your 401k as part of the down payment, okay, with that 10% we were speaking about,
Right.
or you can use that 401k money for the full $1 million to finance the business as well. So
Interesting.
up to you or up to the buyer how they would want to finance it.
For the people that are interested in an idea because maybe they might be working a job and they're looking for supplemental income, and they're not looking for anything crazy but yet effective.
Right.
Would you recommend that they go after the franchise first because of the proven models and because of the track record of the success of the systems, or where they still technically are starting from scratch income-wise? Just because you're starting a franchise doesn't mean that it automatically makes money, but it has the proven systems to do so. Or do you tell them to go after kind of what has been tried and true and what you can actually see on paper via like the net profit from that particular business?
Yeah, so I think it's situational. I think it's it really depends on the particular person, how much time they could allow and or their life would allow for them to spend in the business. You know, what does their support team look like, right? Do they have anyone they're going to be investing with? You know, maybe they have a good operator they're thinking about. So there's a lot of things that go into play when somebody comes to me and they're looking to buy a business.
Right.
You know, either one could be a good way for somebody to buy a business, whether it be an existing business or a franchise. So it really, it's kind of an individual thing that we kind of get into.
Both are totally acceptable. However,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You know, most people, you know, will look for a cash flowing business because that's probably the best way for them to get into. But, you know, keep in mind when someone's buying a cash flowing business and they're buying it from a baby boomer, that baby boomer is in the business, right? So you can't just buy that baby boomer's business and expect that it's going to run by itself once you have to have somebody ready to step in and run the business like he was running it before, or she was running it before. So
they're very good with their hands and being hands-on in that particular business. Nope, totally understand.
Let's talk a little bit about a few websites that I've seen about buying businesses.
Yeah.
Biz Buy Sell?
Yeah, Biz Buy Sell is...
What are your thoughts on that? If someone looking to get into the business, see what's out there, what should be their first step? Reach out to a broker like yourself or start on that website?
So I would start on that website. That's definitely the best place to start. You know, I would say, you know, 75% of my buyer leads come from Biz Buy Sell. It's interesting though, when you speak to buyers, when they call you from Biz Buy Sell, they're like, Darren, you're like the only broker that picks up the phone, or, you know, Murphy Business is the only one that calls me back, and I can't believe this listing is real. I go, what do you mean you can't believe this listing's real? Like, I would say probably more than half the things on there are old listings that the broker never retired, things that maybe are kind of clickbait, you know, like, you know, hey, I don't have this, you know, laundromat available, but how about this laundromat in, you know, over here, right? Like, let's get as many people into the fold as we possibly can, and then try to sell them. We don't do that. Murphy Business does not do that. We're very big on being on the up and up. All our listings are refreshed daily, and you'll always get a phone call back from myself or any of my colleagues.
That's amazing. The only reason why is because obviously in the real estate world, you know, the best deals are off market.
Right.
Right. Where you're able to get into creative structure, creative financing techniques, and they really, and as someone who has bought property both on the MLS and off market, yes, the off market deals are just better. With real estate though, 80% of the 80% of the inventory is still listed on the MLS regardless.
Even when it's taken down? Even when you sell it, it's still listed up?
No.
Yeah.
Like just in general, out of 100 homes of which the seller's like, I want to sell.
Yeah.
80% of them are going to be listed on the MLS.
Okay.
And then 20% are going to be either kept off market or kept off market. And what they're usually teaching real estate investors is that to try to do anything possible to go after those leads and that inventory that's off market.
Yes.
Is that the same case in the business space?
Yeah, so we have high net worth clients that we work with that will engage us with a retainer fee. And then also give us a success fee if we do find things for them.
Interesting.
They're usually very specific in what they want. You know, I have a client right now I'm working with. He engaged me. He's looking for HVAC companies in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area. He's looking for HVAC companies that are doing $5 million or more in revenue with at least $750,000 in cash flow, right? Yep. So very specific. So what I'll try to do is, in my team, we'll go out there and we'll try to go after these HVAC companies that we think meet his criteria and let those owners know that we have somebody that's interested in purchasing in their business. So we do a active campaign approach or search for those particular buyers that come to us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. The another interesting thought process for investors and agents as well is like list building.
Right.
And then finding ways to contact those owners before it hits the market, and then being able to bring that product to market, which it sounds like what you and your team are doing,
Sure.
campaigning wise. So that's really good for anybody that's listening, because obviously, with the dedication that you and your team have, it's a very, and what they trust agents with as well on the real estate end, is to find, I don't want to say that diamond in the rough, but just playing matchmaker between what that particular buyer is looking for and that seller that's willing to go down that particular route. What would you say for anybody that was thinking about a career path of becoming a business broker? Maybe they were an agent. I know at one point I was thinking about it, we had that conversation real briefly.
Yeah.
And I was like, what would it take to, I won't say crossover, but to add that to the repertoire as an agent, considering the fact that's, like you said, and like we've been talking about, some of the properties that have business attached to it are attached to the real estate, in which you wind up coming across, almost unknowingly.
Yes.
So how do you add that? How would you add that to the repertoire? And is that possible, or stick to what you know and rock out from there?
So I'm a big believer of sticking to what you know, but
Yeah.
to your point, and we made this a big goal of ours for 2026, is to network more with commercial real estate agents, because you guys are on the front line, real estate agents in general, on the front line with businesses,
Right.
investors. So, okay, we'll work out. You know somebody that's selling your business, send them over to me.
Yep.
And we'll give you a referral. We'll do all the back end work, right?
Gotcha.
Because it's a little bit of a different process than selling real estate,
Right.
because it's confidential, right? So we got to be very, very careful about not breaching the confidentiality of a seller, right? Because why? If the seller has employees, they can leave. If seller has customers, they can leave. So we have to go about it in a very meticulous way that we make sure that what we're doing is confidential.
Yeah.
But becoming a business broker as a real estate agent would probably be a natural fit. But to do both, I think, would be would be difficult.
Right.
I do. But, as being a referral partner, and then being active with somebody, I think it would be a really great way for somebody to earn and generate some extra revenue.
And that's what I asked, because
Yeah.
a lot of agents have thought about becoming mortgage officers,
Yeah.
right? And it's just like, you can do it,
Yeah.
and there's nothing stopping you. But I think with anything which you focus on expands.
Yes.
And yes, you can do it, but you only might make a certain amount, versus if you were to just stick to everything that you are able to pour in most of your time in,
Yeah.
and then make 2 and 3 times as much,
Yeah.
just not for the sake of just having an extra badge on the belt where you think that you're serving your clients, and even at that case, it can sometimes become a conflict of interest of being the agent and the mortgage officer on the same transaction. So
Yeah.
I thought about it, and then I quickly shot that idea down.
But with the proper training and the patience, you could be very good at doing it. But it has to be something that you're focusing on, and that's
Right.
what you're talking about. And but
Correct.
yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So-
And I think the most important part about being a business broker is not being just you have to be a good salesperson like you are in real estate, but you have to know how to value
Right.
a business. You have to understand the mechanics of a business, right? You have to understand that, the business might be doing $5 million, but they might be doing $5 million with one client. What happens if that client goes away when the buyer buys, right? What happens if you buy a restaurant and the restaurant's built on location? Now you get down to it and the landlord doesn't want to renew the lease.
Yeah.
What are you left with, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different nuances that a business broker has to know
Yeah.
when they're putting a listing together, right? Between the valuation and all those other things that could possibly or potentially kill a deal.
Yeah, that
The-
intrinsic value.
The things you mentioned, does that impact the valuation?
It does, yes. It won't impact the valuation as much as it would definitely impact the structure.
Okay.
All right? Because, if a business valued at $5 million, someone might offer you that $5 million, but the buyer is going to want to mitigate their risk. So it's more about the structure of the deal than it is, am I going to give you that full $5 million, right?
Understood. 'Cause, to piggyback on that, like how do you value that part? If business is doing 5 million or for sale for 5 million, but like you said, you has that one customer. Was there a proportionate way to deduct that value away from the business, but you answered it and it would just be a different structure,
Correct.
Not too much on the valuation or the purchase price of it.
Correct. It'd be probably, I would, if I was representing just the buyer only, I would say, maybe this is something that, okay, we'll give very, very little down.
Right.
Let's see. Let's see how this customer performs for you over a 5-year period, and then we'll do like a revenue share with the seller, right? So, because that as a buyer, you want to mitigate. It's seller financing, but it's almost seller financing with a covenant, right? Like there's performance based seller financing now.
That's
right.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between straight seller financing and performance-based seller financing.
Got it.
Incentives,
So back to the valuation piece I wanted to ask earlier. So if it's a baby boomer paying themselves, let's say $100K, or not paying themselves at all because they're just taking the profits, do we add an operator and there to reduce the net income to go off the valuation, or you guys don't normally do that?
So it really depends. If I'm doing a valuation and I see the owner-operator, and the owner-operator is taking out $150,000.
Okay.
But to replace that owner-operator, it's $75,000 with somebody at the same skill level. I'll add back $75,000, not $150,000.
Right.
Some brokers will add back $150,000, but that's, again, part of the due diligence. We'll go through it, just make sure, because it's really not a proper add back.
Yeah.
So because you have to replace that owner.
The person's going to run the business,
Do you see a lot of people, and then how are they doing it? Because I know when we were talking about it in the beginning, a lot of people go into this, not for passive, I have a love-hate relationship with that word, but just attempting to make the same amount of money that you're making now or more for not as many hours. Do you find that there are, besides TV with Shark Tank,
right?
Do you see that there are walking locals walking up Bloomfield Ave or walking up Main Street that just own, 5-10 businesses and spending, 10 to 15 hours a week doing what they're supposed to do?
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that, but we gotta. How did they get there, right?
Correct.
Everyone got there by buying that first thing, spending all that time in it, buying the next thing, putting all the time in, and then building it up, and then having enough money to be able to hire a manager to run it, or managers to be able to give them that freedom of not working as much. So
and I love that because, like I said, when we were talking about property managers earlier, where when we were getting into buying rental properties, that was the sole goal. Bigger pockets and all online, and you buy a couple of duplexes, and if you can make $5,000 a month, right, like that would solve so many of your issues. And then you get into it and you're like, that's not really the case, right? So I only asked because for buying rental properties, it was our first introduction to buying a small business, becoming landlords as the operators, financing the deal instead of SBA, it was FHA, and learning what it takes to learn the ins and outs before you actually are able to hire a property manager to take care of literally everything, where all you have to do is pick up the call. And then, like I said, because as you got into it, I tell people now, like, it's great supplemental income. Yeah. But if you're planning on living off of that, you better have a system in place to actually plan to buy 3 to 5 homes a year. And then in 3 years, you're in a much better situation. Correct. Most people are just buying that first property 1 year, another property the next year. And then, you're netting $25,000 a year off of 2 properties, right? That's not going to be life-changing. So now that a lot of people are starting to look at the numbers and compare and contrast, and business buying just seems like the next logical step in the wealth building phase as well as the cash flow phase.
Yes.
And that's why we wanted to bring you on, because it's something, I mean, Jonathan have talked about plenty of times when we did the brunch. We wanted to introduce a new sector of stuff that might intrigue the same individuals that we're going after rental properties for the same goal. Because I know that's my goal, like in the long run.
Yeah, this is probably one of the only countries in the world that encourages entrepreneurs to buy their own business. There's so many resources out there that the government provides for people to be able to become a small business owner. It's really, really, truly amazing. It's kind of the lifeblood of our economy. It's the backbone of our economy. And, you even saw it like, when we went through the pandemic, how the government stepped up and they supported small businesses in different ways to make sure that none of them really failed. Inevitably some did, but for the most part, they did a really good job of helping small business owners kind of survive and weather the storm. So it's an amazing opportunity for anybody that's thinking about becoming a small business owner. It's scary, it's risky, but there's so many people that are on your side that want you to succeed. That if you do the right thing and you buy the right business, you'll be successful.
I know when someone's buying their first house, there can possibly be grants if there's with federal grants. Are there any grants when it comes to buying businesses, like your first business or a specific sector of business?
So there's not usually grants, that they're going to give you money to go buy a small business, but a lot of
it's like, we're giving you 90%.
Yeah, a lot of
well, FHA is 3.5.
Yeah,
correct.
But a lot of franchises will give incentives to veterans, first responders, teachers, certain groups to discount the fees for them to be able to buy a business, right?
Like
we don't see the
entry
point, right? They make it more affordable. Maybe they'll have their own internal financing programs, so they'll do things like that. But I don't know of any kind of like grants that are just, okay, here's a check and you can go buy the business. I will say there's a ton of grants once you open up your business and you need to grow your business.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that are available out there. I'm not really privy to that stuff, but there's people out there that specifically are grant writers. You have the SBA, obviously, that can help you. There's SCORE, which is another government-run agency that can help small business owners grow their business through mentorship and grant writing and things like that. So
interesting.
That's really good. And kind of as we start our descent here, it is an interesting two-part question. Going back to franchises, a lot of people consider, and I mean myself included, franchises as your McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, right? Chipotle. I mean, not to say with food, but that's kind of your, let's just say, Roto-Rooter for your HVAC and plumbing. Like franchise where you see them all over.
Yes.
Most of the times those have pretty large entry points, or you have the McDonald's thing where you have to be in a certain location.
Correct.
And it makes it harder to actually enter that franchise. So anytime that I've been actually looking on Biz Buy Sell, there's the local residential home cleaning franchise. And I'm like, no, because I don't know who the hell they are.
Right.
Should we not overlook those particular franchises just because we don't know them, or just because somebody doesn't know them? And then how do you vet the quality of that particular franchise before throwing your funds behind it?
So that's a great question. So as a franchise consultant, I belong to a franchise brokers association.
Okay.
Within that association, there can be thousands of different franchises. We have in our association a little less than 900 franchises that we kind of speak to or vetted, have strong financials, things that we feel that our clients, when we recommend them, could do very well. So we could do the vetting for you,
Okay.
meaning that we will bring you what we think is quality, right? Can't guarantee anything. There's no guarantees. Can't make any earning claims. But we will bring you the more reputable franchises, right? And these franchises will have, these franchise disclosure documents that will tell you what your expectations are, what you can possibly make, how long have they been in business for, how many franchisees do they have in the system, how many franchisees left the system, right? They have
Good point.
They have all your fees itemized, how much it's going to cost you to get into the franchise. These are all things that are going to be disclosed to you as a franchise buyer, right? And so we'll work with you, and we always start kind of the other way. We start with a personality assessment, really get to know you with a one-on-one personal interview, and then we have a written assessment that we do, which is about 10 or 15 minutes, kind of understanding what your risk tolerances are, how much you're looking to spend, what are the industries that might fit you perfectly. Is it important for you to be, the mayor of the town? Do you want to be that type of person, or you really don't care? Like, so those are some of the things that we look into and put it all together to make sure that we find you that right franchise.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. You kind of answered that question. So a lot of our viewers own real estate, purchased real estate for many years, maybe have a lot of equity. Let's say if they want to sell their real estate and get into a business, what business would you really gear them towards? But it sounds like you really gotta assess their risk, their tolerance, and all that factors to see what type of sector is best for them.
Correct.
The second part to that question was, are there any for real estate, if you're selling real estate and buying real estate, there's a 1031 exchange.
Right.
Are they able to avoid taxes when selling their real estate and buying a business?
Yeah, so you can't obviously avoid taxes, but you can defer taxes, and there's definitely ways for you to defer capital gains and then use that to go out and purchase a business. That obviously you would have to speak to your accountant and to your trust and estates attorney, but there are things out there that possibly can defer your capital gains.
Last question, just before we get you out of here. 15 seconds. Give us all the businesses that somebody should not go into.
Well, that's a tough question. It really kind of depends on your preference, but restaurant's difficult.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the business I love. I mean, maybe that'll make it easier for everybody. Yeah. I love home services.
Yeah.
I love HVAC.
HVAC.
I love plumbing. I love electrical. I love anything in senior care, right? Whether it be in-home care, anything to provide products to seniors, whether it be walkers, wheelchairs, anything in that sector. Those are the things. I like anything in medical. Those are things are recession resilient, right? They don't go up and down based on somebody liking the food one day and not liking it the other day, right?
Yeah.
Some of these things are necessities. So anything that's a necessity is a good industry to get into.
All right. So now tell our viewers, where can they find you if they want to learn more and possibly buy a business?
Yeah, so they can find me at www.sellmybusinessasap.com or www.thefranchiselab.com.
Nice.
So either way.
Amazing. Darren, as always, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show.
Yeah.
And just pour into us as we have a plethora of questions on how we can get started, how our viewers can get started. And I know with the goal that you provided today, it's definitely helping individuals take the right step and going into that space. This is the Real Estate Blueprint Podcast, where we're giving you the blueprint on everything real estate, on everything wealth building, and on everything cash flow. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, your humble host, Austin, a.k.a. More Than an Agent, with my co-host here, John Soto, our guest, Darren Smith today. And we appreciate you for everything. And this is the Real Estate Blueprint Podcast, signing off.